Good morning, everyone. Before we start the meeting, and let me reiterate, this is not a part of our formal meeting. I just would invite everyone to take a moment, everyone who is a praying person, to pray for the people of Ukraine, and we'll do that individually, privately, before we have our meeting. So let's take a moment. Thank you very much. It's now 8 o'clock, and I would call this meeting of the Whitley County Council to order and invite you to stand and join us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Buuck, first item on our agenda, and I understand you have guests with us today.
Yeah, we have guests today. So Dale Buuck with Economic Development Corporation. Always exciting news when there's new investment made in the county. And especially today, we have two existing, very successful, thriving businesses that are looking to do actually approximately the same amount of investment, almost 11 million with each one of them. But our first company today is Advanced Materials. Their parent company is Whitley Metals. Really neat story for those of you who don't know. They took a whole foundry building and have turned it into quite the really state-of-the-art advanced materials. They're actually, and I'll let Haley kind of describe it a little bit more. But they want to literally double the melting in the furnace of the specialty metals that they're doing. And so the request for tax abatement on this investment is coming forward also because Portland Metals has many different facilities, not only throughout the area, throughout other countries. So the Columbia City facility is actually competing with the other facilities. So the tax abatement is important for the Columbia City financial projections that they have for it. So kind of without further ado, I'd like to introduce Haley, and then I'll come back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of Advanced Materials Development, I want to say thank you for your past and continued support. AMD continues to grow and develop here in this community. We want to continue to sustain and build upon these prior investments. Technology and innovation are ever increasing at AMD. And when we look at a few of the technological advancements we've made, we are increasing our melting capabilities. We are continually advancing our melting recipes and techniques, and we're gaining efficiencies in the way that we are melting. I want to just highlight a few of our innovative processes this morning. We are melting unique materials that are used throughout equipment in the healthcare industry. We're expanding the use of different melt modalities that drive specific material characteristics. And we're also looking to add furnaces that will help our growth plan by expanding our capacity to melt nitinol. There are no current plans in place to add square footage, though there has been discussion of potential real estate expansions in the future as our facility continues to grow. As Dale mentioned, we do have sister facilities scattered throughout Allen County. We also have two in Ohio, and we have an Irish facility. However, we want to grow and develop here in Whitley County. The passing of this abatement is just another step in our growth trajectory. Thank you. Questions for me?
This time, how many do you employ?
We have 47 current employees.
Do you think this new process will add any employees?
Yes, we're looking to actually add 24 employees over the next 5 years.
Once you get into the hiring process, are you veteran friendly in your hiring?
Oh, yes.
Do the processes that you're going to be implementing put Whitley County at an advantage for future expansion because of the skills that your laborers will have?
I believe so. Yes, this is our melting facility specifically. And so to continue to grow that melting facility, we'll be able to bring in more employees, continue to grow that, and then This melting facility supplies all of our nitinol to the Fort Wayne Metals facilities, and the goal is to be able to then sell that as well.
Thank you.
And just to kind of follow up on the wages too, EMD pays well above the county average, and the new hires that she talked about will also pay well above the county average. So the resolution is 202202, and the request is for a 10-year phase-in of the abatement on the investment that will be made over the next, probably starting around the summer, and it'll take quite a while because of the processes. So over the next 6 to 8 months, and that is a request from our council.
Make a motion to accept that request, titled 2022-02.
Have a motion on the floor
I second it.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, and let it show that it is unanimously supported.
Thank you. Well, I'll just keep going. The second request in front of you is also for phase-in tax abatement for personal property tax, and this is with Impact CNC. Impact has recently taken over a building that was in need of revitalization, and it had, for some of you are aware of, this was the old couple products building, and formerly before that had a plating line in it, and a lot of really environmental issues. And we talked to Jerry, and Jerry's here, and he'll come up and describe a little bit about what he's doing. But several members on redevelopment, and invited several members, and I hope it's okay that we really want you to come out and see the facility and see the transformation that's taking place. 250,000 square feet of advanced production, advanced product development going on there. The proposal in front of you today is for quite a few CNC machines, I believe almost 32 of them, along with some robotics, because Impact is bidding on a production line with OEM automotive manufacturer. So it's obviously anytime you're a tier supplier to an OEM, it's very competitive. So this Impact currently employs almost 200 people, and again, well above the county average. This new line, because as everyone is aware, the struggles in trying to hire folks, will have a lot more automation in it, which is also driving some of the investment. So it's going to have about 20 new employees just tied to this investment. And again, those wages will be at or above the county average, and almost at, just to start. And with that, I just invite Jerry Bushy to come up and speak a little bit about what the plan is and the opportunity, and feel free to ask some questions.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you having me here today. So this line is for the Toyota Highlander SUV. This will be for ICE and automotive. It will be machining this knuckle. This knuckle will be, we're buying 32 horizontals, and we're putting full robotics running the horizontals. Will be 6 people per line per shift running this. So it's 18 directs. We think it could be 8 people per line. We're not sure. The automation people are telling us that we're only going to need 6, but you never know until you get the lines running. But this will be a fully automated robotic line. One robot runs 4 horizontals. So the operators will just load parts, then the robot will run the parts. So this is new technology for us, whole new area. We're kind of excited about this opportunity. It's an 8-year, it'll be an 8-year contract. So this will run for 8 years here in this county. We just finished the renovation pretty much on the Essex building. We spent almost $5 million in that building. I don't know if you drove by it, but it's sure changed. inside and out. So we're real excited to be here. We're excited for the opportunity to grow, keep growing. Any questions?
I always ask this question, when you get into the hiring process, are you veteran friendly in your hiring?
Was it?
Are you veteran friendly
Yes,
in your
yes,
hiring?
Yes, very much so. My dad was a veteran, so yes, very much so.
Thank you. Thank you.
And all these new CNC machines are going to be out at the new location.
Yeah, we're consolidating everything to that location. So we're, all of our machine for Impact CNC will be at that location. When we had the other two plants in Short and 1380, we was about 140,000 square feet using, that's 250,000 square feet. This line, we're gonna be fairly getting close to being full once this line goes in. So we're actually probably later this summer, we'll be adding 40,000 square foot warehouse on the back of the building just for the dunnage and all the material. Some of the other lines that we're launching right now with John Deere, we're doing the oil pan for the sprayer. That's 2,000 millimeter horizontals that we're in the process of launching right now for John Deere. And we're launching 2 800 millimeter horizontals to machine the hitch for the back of the 8,000 series tractor. There were 2 more lines that we're launching right now. That's not included in this.
Well, you've taken a building that was a heartburn for the county. It did have environmental issues. It was very expensive to clean up. You totally renovated it. It looks great. I'm waiting to get inside. The outside looks.
Anytime.
And you know, our redevelopment commission, that's one thing we're going to do is we're going to visit businesses in the county, especially the ones that are expanding. And I've been to Fort Wayne Metals. I seen the same thing there when they improved that building. And then the jobs that you're creating is good, and I applaud you for that.
I appreciate your continued investment in Whitley County.
Thank you. We love it here. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, so the resolution for the phase-in tax abatement is 2022-03, and that is a 10-year sliding scale. It's the exact same percentages for AMD.
I make a motion to approve 2022-03 on the 10-year abatement.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, and let it show that it was unanimous. Thank you. Cindy Doolittle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give you this inventory sheet, well, not inventory, but it's service fees for Microvote. That's our vendor for the election. And I have these highlighted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm asking this morning is, as you can see all the fees that Microvote charges, for both the primary election and the general election, it costs $25,940 for them to do everything that we need them to do for the election. The one thing that the election board, we had a meeting a week and a half ago, is about election day support. We usually pay Microvote for them to be there on site on election day. They're back in the room with the election board as we're reading in the votes and when we tally at night. And recently, we have been getting not good support, and they don't have a lot of employees at Microvote. So basically what they do is they hire people about 2 weeks before the election and they train them. So of course, they don't have the experience that some of the people in our office has. So what we kind of voted on was we wanted to give, everybody knows Jessica, who works in the voter registration office, and she's the supervisor. She does a wonderful job. She does a great job. If ever there's an issue, of course, we go to her because she's been there 15, 16 years and she knows the equipment. So yes, she works on election day and she gets comp time for election day, but instead of paying Microvote the $2,400 per election, we would like to pay Jessica to be that go-to person, because she goes above and beyond what her job description states. And it's just something that she's always wanted to do, because the election and the integrity of the election is very important to her, because she knows, if something happens, what it could do to Whitley County. And so basically, instead of paying Microvote that $2,400, we would like to pay Jessica. We just was trying to see what would be fair, since she would be getting comp time as well, but we were wanting to give her per election, just for this election, $750 per election.
You mean this election cycle?
Yes, this election cycle, because next year it's a city election. It's not going to be as complicated. It's not going to be, so every year the election board would revisit it and decide, like the presidential election, that's going to be, that would probably deserve more than $750. But for this election cycle, we'd like to give her $750.
So you're saying May and November both are just $750 for both?
No, $750 per, so that'd be $1,500.
Okay.
But we would not be paying Microvote for election day support.
And that's fine with the state of Indiana. We
Oh,
can have
yes.
her, we can pay her to do that instead of
Yes.
paying.
Because we have some counties that will have Microvote do everything on here. And then there's some counties that, like we do the training. We don't, Jessica's knowledgeable enough. She does all the training, so we don't pay Microvote to come in and do the training. So it's basically our choice. But recently Microvote contacted Jessica and said, well, why don't you just do it? We'll just, she can do, she was I'm capable, but I have other duties as well. But then there's, she needs to be compensated if she's going to basically do their work. But,
How is this going to interfere with her normal duties?
well, she's going to be floating around. We have people that work in our office that Jessica very rarely will go out to a polling site, only in an emergency, because she's kind of the hub up there to know how to direct people. We don't think this election, it's not going to be like I say, this election is not going to be like the presidential election. We have other people also working in our office that will be helping as far as the other duties, as far as the election and making sure everything goes all right. And then the election board, we're going to be there as well.
What are the duties of this person?
Pardon?
What are the duties of this person?
Well,
When you have to hire them to come in and they're not really trained, what are their duties?
Well, like just for example, we hired someone, it was in 2020, and he came in and we were having trouble with some of the equipment, just getting it up and going, some of the poll workers. So I said, listen, if somebody calls, I'm going to have them I'll have you get on the phone and I'll have you walk them through this. And he goes, I don't know how to do that. And we're like, so I had a talk with Microvote and they said, well, no, we train them about 2 weeks before. So it's not like they went out and done this before. So that would be one, if there would be an emergency, something that, they would have to go to the polls. On election night, when we tally in the votes, if there's an issue on the computer, Jessica, she's done this before without any pay and she's just done it. But the person that was tallying the votes, we had a heck of a time tallying them in because he didn't know what he was doing. So we still had to get Jessica to tell him, this person, what to do. And of course, the election board, when the election was over, we voted not to pay microvote the $2,400. And they had to kind of settle with us because we didn't think it was fair that we hired them for $2,400 and we didn't have good representation.
So Cindy, is this particular election support, this type of hardware support, is it outside of Jessica's job description as approved by WIS?
Yes, this part is not on her job description. Now, it is where if there would be an issue, an emergency, she can program a machine that is on her job description, things like this. But as far as election day support, yeah, she's the supervisor. She knows what to do, but she's really going above and beyond. And again, if I'm just trying to think of a way also that we could save the county money.
So I want to make sure I understand. So this is a long day for Jessica. She's there from 6 to 8, 5 to 8 or 9 or
yeah.
whenever. So by you asking for this, is this going to be then, that'll be her normal workday plus this stipend, or that'll be her normal workday plus comp time plus this stipend?
She gets comp time, because it is, our office is the only office in the county that has, so she does get comp time. So this is a stipend. I don't know if you want to call it a stipend.
But this wouldn't replace those extra hours of comp time. This would be in addition to that.
This would be an addition.
It still won't add up to $2,400, I wouldn't think.
Pardon?
The comp time still wouldn't add up to $2,400.
no.
Well, the $750 plus comp time probably still would.
Saves $3,400 if I can do the simple math over 2 elections.
And like I say, the election board, we're gonna revisit it every election. I mean, every election year. Because like I say, the next year, the city election,
How long have you used microvote?
ever since we, gosh.
So has Jessica been here the whole time microvote has been?
Almost, yeah. She was hired soon after that.
Well, it would be frustrating paying this kind of money to this company and they go to Jessica to get the answers.
Exactly, and that's what's frustrating to her. But, she's willing to do whatever she can do to help. It's just, it is frustrating. And the thing is, microvote, they know that Jessica knows this. So sometimes we wonder if that's why we don't get maybe some of the more knowledgeable ones, because they know. I mean, she already got a phone call saying, well, you know this. Well, yeah, I do, but it's not fair to pay them when we end up going to her to fix things.
If we approve this law, what changes in the salary ordinance do we need to make?
The auditor and I have spoken, and that is yet to be determined. They would contact State Board of Accounts as to the appropriate way to handle this, if we have to change salary ordinance or if there's another way. So we would,
Contract.
Basically, we straw vote and then have the salary ordinance change and then vote for the salary.
yes.
Now, our county employees, I brought this up, they, because we're closed, we do get a lot of county employees that work the election. And I don't know, it goes through payroll, but it's a little bit different, isn't it? That's how I thought this was going to be, and not, since it's going to change every year, and then there's going to be an off election that, of course, this wouldn't be applicable. But
So you say there's other county employees that work that day.
oh, yes.
And
yes.
so you don't have to change the salary ordinance. So wouldn't she fall in just like this with the others or not?
That's what I need to verify. I don't know
Okay.
for sure because it's
But the others are different.
Contract services.
right.
Well, Cindy
Not
said
that
it was going to be addressed for each and every election.
Yes.
So we don't know the answer to that in the long term.
But the other employees are different though. It's their
Yes.
day off and they're working a poll or working
Well,
at the
Like I'm
election.
talking countywide.
Yeah,
Now,
okay.
my employees, they do come in on the Saturday before the election and they get a flat fee of $50. This is the way it's been done. It's one of those things, this way it's always been done. They just get a flat fee. for their services, but I was trying to think. And then, of course, the other county employees, they just get what everybody else gets for their duties that day. And then it's ran through payroll, but it's a little bit different.
So the question is whether to support the concept of having our local county employee, Jessica, paid a stipend in whatever way the state tells us is appropriate, as opposed to paying micro vote more for less service.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we pay Jessica $750 for election day support and not use micro vote for $2,400 a day.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
May we stipulate that it's Jessica Hockemeyer?
Jessica Hockemeyer, correct?
Would it be the position or person?
Need what, John?
It'd be the person.
I would think that this is probably a topic that would have to be individually addressed for each election. So I think the way that the proposal is, or the motion was made would be appropriate, because I think this would have to be then for the general election, and then next year, every time this would have to, they would need to come to us for that request.
Yeah, and I don't think it'd be the position, because if she left that tomorrow, and then somebody else comes in, they wouldn't have the experience.
She could leave and Mark could hire her as a deputy and go to work there, but she could still come back and do this job,
Yes,
because it's her that has the knowledge and not the
Exactly.
position.
exactly.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, and let it show that the motion was passed unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy.
I appreciate it.
Scott Wagner.
Good morning.
Morning.
We sent out an email and gave you a copy of the final year-end report. I come by every year and do that, show off the health department a little bit, to see that we have 7 full-time people and 3 part-time people, including the health officer. You can see that our hands reach into the community in various fashions. Do lots of different things that most people don't know, more than just food inspections and septic permits. So a couple things we want to highlight there for immunizations. We had over 10,000 vaccinations this year. COVID helped with that, obviously. Each county, each health department employee assisted in the clinic earlier this year and later this year as we break in the summertime. So everybody had to participate. We needed all their help to make this thing run. So kudos to all the health department employees. Great news this year is now that COVID's gone or going away, Carly gets to get back into the schools. Since she was able to get in the schools the last 2 years, we did after-school programs. Continuing that, as well as getting into the schools now, be able to teach that. So we're getting a lot more, hopefully, pre-education into things for health, so that we're not suffering on the long-term healthy issues in the county. That's our idea for that. In addition, we hired Danielle Henderson for our breastfeeding coordinator, lactation consultant. She's in the hospital every week, meeting with clients. And so hopefully we are beating the curve on childhood obesity and other things that affect our community. So any questions that you might have had while you read through it? Anything that stood out to you?
So on the vaccination, you said 10,366.
Yeah.
What, is that all free to Whitley County residents? Was there any charges on any of
There
this?
are some charges. People who don't, who are eligible for like what they call VFC, where it would be state funded vaccinations. They have the income, but they just choose to come to the county instead.
Okay.
A lot of times they'll pay their costs out of fee. Sometimes insurance doesn't cover everything, so there are some that they do pay some of those fees. But all your COVID vaccinations were free.
Right. Okay.
Now, we did bill for those. So under the federal government, all insurance companies, well, not all, vast majority of them agreed to pay an administrative fee to the state for those vaccinations.
Right.
So of the 8,000 plus COVID vaccinations that we gave, we did get some insurance reimbursement. The state took their cut off the top, and then we got some left over, and that went back into the immunization grant when we received that next. So
How many of those 8,050 do you think were Whitley County residents? Because I know you had a lot from out of county.
probably 65%.
65?
And a lot of Whitley County residents went to Noble, Huntington, Tazewell, Fort Wayne, depending on where they lived in the county, how quickly they could get in. We were one of the first clinics to open as many days. We had, the first week we were open, we were like, oh, we'll just do 100. Then the next week we did 1,000. So we jumped up quickly, and because of that, we saw a lot of people coming in from other counties that couldn't get in right away to their county. So we were quite busy with that. Any other questions you have for us?
The Whitley County health rankings, you got
Yes.
plus and minus on some of
Yes, so
those.
they changed that. So the Robert Wood Foundation is the one that comes up with these every year. And used to, they would give a ranking for each of those categories. This year, they give percentages. So if you see a positive, it means that we're above the annual percentage, which is good. If we say negative, we're below the annual percentage. So overall, we're better this year than we were last year.
Okay.
2021 better than 2020. And as you can see, historically, we're usually in the top 10% of Indiana counties when it comes to healthy. Our biggest thing, and you won't be surprised by this, is commuting to driving. Since we're a better community, they count that against us. People driving in their cars going 20 plus miles to their jobs. They count that against us. So, and then anytime anybody passes away under that 72, 75 age, that's counted against us too. So anytime we have premature death with overdoses or suicides, things like that, that counts against us. But overall, we're doing pretty good, I would say, for Whitley County.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Anything? Carly's with us today. You see, when you look at her profile, that she's involved in a great many task force and committees. So we are out there partnering with everybody that we can get our hands on and trying to help them as well as help our community. We like to see ourselves as the hub of the wheel when it comes to many of these issues in the county. I personally don't want the government to run things. I want to be a facilitator to bring those groups together and then let them do what they're supposed to do. They're the ones that know their jobs. They're the ones that can do the mental health and the counseling and the other things that we need in our community. Let them do their jobs. We just want to bring them together so we can facilitate that more readily. Give them the things that they need.
Are you totally moved into your new office space?
We are totally moved in. As of yesterday, everybody's computer's up and running. Everybody's phone works. Almost everything's been put away. So we are up and running. Hopefully it'll be a good fit for everybody. Hopefully now people will be crossing the hallway asking for shots or birth certificates and having to send people back and forth. So a few more little teeny things, but other than that, we're doing really well. Come down and visit us.
Scott, what's the, on West, what are they doing now or where are they at?
As far as I know, they're still doing remote appointments for WIC. I've been told that they have an exemption from the state to do remote appointments through April. So I imagine that sometime in May, they'll be opening up a facility somewhere in Whitley.
Right now, are they run by Fort Wayne?
Neighborhood Health is the not-for-profit that runs WIC right now. They have clinics in Allen, Noble, Toad, and now Whitley. And they were given that by the state of Indiana. So I do believe sometime in May, they should be opening up a clinic. They're very secretive. They have not told me anything. They have not coordinated with us. Again, once they open up, we'll try to make some connections again with them and hope, especially with our lactation consultant, giving in customers, getting people involved in that so we can continue care. You're welcome.
COVID update?
We, many days of the week now, we're seeing 0 positive patients. If we do see some, they're less than 10. So typically a family would get ill, like it has before, they go and get tested positive. So we went down to yellow for last week. We should be getting down hopefully to blue here pretty soon. You're gonna see straggling here and there fizzle out. What they're predicting now is that they'll have an annual shot like your flu shot, especially for people 50 and older for COVID. But unless for some reason there's some wild strain out there, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we finally met that threshold of people who've been exposed, and now the virus just drops off because there's nobody else to infect. So it's going to slow down, hopefully. So we're looking forward to it. Even last summer when the numbers got lower, it wasn't this low. So
You're still giving shots here?
we still give shots on Thursdays only, from 9 to 11:30 and 1 to 3:30. And we'll be doing that through March, every Thursday. April and May, we have yet to see what that's going to look like.
Thank you.
Very nice report.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Personnel Committee recommendations. Jessica, if you would come and join us. And Katie, if you want to be involved in the discussion too.
Good morning.
Morning.
I apologize, I wasn't prepared. I thought you were going
Oh.
to present, but I certainly can.
We just wanted you available for questions.
Okay, I think the only recommendation that you had, if I remember correctly, was in the highway department. Katie put in a request to reclassify the assistant foreman position from LTC 4 to an LTC 3. And you recommended that you felt it was appropriate to go through WIS. And so we did that, and they came back with the recommendation that yes, it should in fact be reclassified. And I don't know what other questions you might have. That was the recommendation that you were trying to make to council.
Yep, Personnel Committee did recommend that we pass this. Can also note that it will not require change in the salary ordinance because this is a lower salary than we approved for the assistant director, correct?
Well, it
Oh,
will,
I'm sorry, we're one step down.
it will require a change in salary ordinance because this particular position will change in salary. It might not affect the overall
Budget. Okay.
but it will affect this particular position. It is an increase in pay of a couple $1,000.
See, I knew you needed to be up here.
That's okay.
Any questions, any discussion?
Any motion we approve the reclassification request for the highway department?
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign, and let it show that it was passed unanimously. And so next month, we will address the salary ordinance.
If I could, would you specify, I guess, I forgot this, the effective date of the change in salary? Typically, I think we've been doing the next beginning of the payroll, so that would be in 2 weeks, I think. But it's a good idea to specify when that salary will take effect.
And does it need to be a part of the motion?
It probably is a good idea. I apologize.
I'm make my motion, I amend it
And
to those pay statutes, states wherever the pay. What's your recommendation for the pay?
Well, we just started. It could be effective yesterday, or it could be effective in 2 weeks, whichever you, I mean, there's other options as well, but those are two options.
It could be whatever you make it. John, you just have to pick a
Preferably the beginning of the pay period.
Beginning of the pay period.
next or last.
One that just went past
Yeah, yesterday then.
yesterday.
Thank you.
we have an amendment to the motion that we passed Do you approve
I
that?
second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please raise your right hand and let it show that that was unanimous. Commissioners report.
We've got a lot going on. I know part of my report will be a jail update, but I'm going to start with circling back to last month. Council asked us to try to gather more information about that autopsy. And Scott, I think Scott's here. Scott Smith was able to make contact with the coroner up there and have a better understanding that they take all of their bodies to a university in Michigan, which right there costs more, plus the fact that they have a forensic pathologist that they use on every one of them. But that inmate did die from natural causes. The higher cost is just associated with the fact that they transport them further and they use a forensic pathologist. There's really nothing we can do. We paid the bill. It's just unfortunate that it was so high. Moving on to engineering, we talked in the past about what we're doing in the engineering department. I think I may have reported already, but I'll just reiterate. USI was selected to have an on-call contract with the county, and right now we're just sticking with that. We were vetting out some others, but USI is working. They've already helped with drainage assessments, and they've just been really helpful up to this point. They're doing weekly meetings with engineering, planning and building. I'm not sure. I think those are the two players where they're really helping out right now. And they're being paid through professional services and the commissioner's budget. So there could come a time where we'll come back to you all and ask for an additional or for a transfer, because really we're trying to use the money that we aren't spending on the previous engineer salary to pay for these services. But we'll keep a close pulse on how much we're spending. And, you know, at this time, we're not asking for anything. I just want you to know that in the future, we could be coming and saying, can we have a transfer or an additional, because we're covering it from our budget. Nathan Bilger, Mike Nafel, Jennifer Stevenson, along with the commissioners are just going to maintain that relationship with USI, and whatever comes up, we'll decide if it's a priority and should go to them. But not everything is going to go to them. Not everything requires a professional engineer. So we'll just keep a pulse on that. Also, we made a couple structural changes in the engineering department. Mike Knafel now reports directly to the commissioners, and Jennifer Stevenson is the department head, if you will, and she'll report directly to the commissioners. So just slight structural changes. But we did have to change job descriptions to say that they're both now reporting directly to the commissioners. The bridge inspections are starting this month. So if you hear from constituents about somebody walking around under bridges or whatever, they're doing bridge inspections. And that's ERI who does the bridge inspections. I emailed you all sometime last month about preferred IT and pricing going up. I'm sure you all had a chance to look at that, but I just want to keep that on your radar as well, because at budget time, we're going to be asking for a lot more. Just because last year, right at the end of the year, it was in December, they hit us with a 3% increase on the bill. And as you know, we were already through budget cycle. We budgeted based on a number. And then they said, well, there's an annual increase, and that wasn't in our budget. And then we hadn't prepared for the increase in the licensing for every user. And so there's just stuff that's coming up that we didn't anticipate. So of course, we'll do our best to figure out how to pay for these things, but I just want to keep you aware. And then during our business review with Preferred last week, we talked about this building, our servers running out of RAM. We're at like 95% capacity on the server here, and we're out of switches. So we can't even add more users. So there's some things that we're gonna have to do in this building for IT as well. So then switching gears into the jail, I did reach out to Tony from Elevatus and to Jeff Schroeder. And unfortunately, neither of them are able to make it this morning. But Tony did provide me with kind of a timeline about what we've done so far for design and what he sees as next steps. So I'll just read from this. Elevatus has provided 4 different designs for prototype floor plan and have explained differences among each option. The Sheriff's Department has selected the Fulton County Jail as the design to begin with. They believe this layout most closely matches their needs and will require the least number of changes throughout the design modification phase. So I'll just stop right there and remind you all that because we're using prototype, the cost for design starts at 3%, which is really low. I mean, if we would have hired a different firm who didn't have an architect or who didn't have a prototype design, we probably would have started at 6% because they'd be starting from scratch. But since these prints are already proven, they've already been used in 4 jails, we didn't feel a need to start from scratch. We can use something that's already been designed. So, of course, as we make modifications, we climb, but I'm keeping a pulse on that. I talked to Tony last week. We're really still keeping the costs low. There's not any real big significant changes that are being made in the designs. Elevatus has met with the Sheriff's Department on 2 occasions, specifically to discuss the desired design modifications. The Sheriff's Department and Elevatus toured the Fulton County Jail to refresh our minds on specific layout details as it relates to operations of the jail. Although we ran out of time, we intended to conduct a 3rd design modification meeting immediately following, but there just wasn't time. I was there as well, and there just wasn't time to do any design. I do know that they're scheduled on Thursday of this week to meet again, I believe at 8 a.m. Is Sean here?
That's correct.
So Sean and Tony will meet to continue their design meetings Thursday morning. So Tony's saying he thinks that really we're about 70% through the design modification already, which, you know, things are moving quickly. The next steps and from his assessment is that the county is looking at a construction manager at risk approach to deliver the construction services. So at this time, the county needs to focus their effort on the onboarding process of the construction manager. The construction manager can offer valuable pre-construction services, including cost estimating. The sooner the construction manager is on board, the more value they bring to the project team. So when we last met as a group, the jail committee, we talked about having a construction manager committee, like a selection, or not a selection, but like a vetting committee. So when the RFP goes out to these construction managers, this team of people would meet and score the folks who've responded to be the construction manager. So
Excuse me, Chad.
Yeah.
Can you explain first the difference between the construction manager and the earlier thought possibility of an owner's rep?
Well, they're 2 different things. They're not the
Yes,
same.
show the difference.
So we hired an owner's rep, as you all know, Jeff Schroeder from BW. And really he was valuable because he negotiated the contract with Elevatus. And he did cut some significant things from that contract with Elevatus. And now he's currently working on the RFP for the construction manager. And we've told him, the commissioners, obviously, we want to work closely with them on that because we want to make sure we have a full understanding of, you know, who this RFP is going out to and, you know, who's getting a seat at the table, because it really matters that everyone's getting a seat at the table. And, so he's been valuable up to this point. But the thought process is we don't know if we hire a construction manager, which I don't know how you build a jail and not hire a construction manager. The thought is at that point, a construction manager can pick up where an owner's rep left off. So in my opinion, I don't believe we need both. But I think that it's important that we name, I'm asking for 3 members of council, and I don't know if we just want to keep the 3 that are on the board now or on the committee now, or if you want to name 3 others, because I know that sometimes members of council would like to be more actively involved, but they're not sure what their opportunity is. But I'm also saying or asking that if you are selected, please participate. Don't don't blow it off. It's important. So we would just ask for 3 members of council to be a part of that construction manager at risk committee, subcommittee, whatever you want to call it.
Mr. Commissioner,
Yes,
in all
sir.
fairness, I can't get it the day of or the next day before you have the meeting. It's hard for me to do that.
Yep, totally understand that.
I mean, if you guys can get the meeting set earlier and give us plenty enough time, I know he's had problems with that once in a while, and I know I have problems with it, but other than that,
Yeah. So I get it. I can't either. I can't operate on short notice. Can't do it. So I totally understand that. But I'm just saying there's opportunities to be involved. So like it's difficult as a commissioner to hear the words, I feel left out, or I don't know what's going on, when there's a lot of opportunity to be involved and find out what's going on. So that's all I'm saying. If you have interest in being in this committee, then please, by all means, join the team, but be involved.
Well, can that committee be opened up to full council? Because it
No.
shouldn't fall under, since it's a educational meeting, wouldn't that
Yeah,
allow
so
it?
the makeup of that committee will be the 3 commissioners, 3 members of council, and a community representative, along with a rep from the jail. So that's a lot of people already.
Yeah, I understand.
And so we're trying to keep the group smaller. Like really, it was recommended 7. I think we're at 9. So there's great people in the community like Troy Gay from AGA, who has offered to help in any way. He has experience with construction managers, and he's even offered to do so much as review the proposals and give us just some free advice as a pillar in our community, as a citizen who cares about what we're doing.
Who has expertise.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Well,
So
could we do where the representatives from council, when you have your meeting at our next council meeting, do a report for the rest of us that are not able to attend? That would be nice.
yeah.
We've discussed and pursued whether or not we can have a combined council commissioner meeting. And that would be a public meeting based by law. It cannot be an executive session. We've done the research. So that can happen in the future. Tony from Elevatus will be coming to the council periodically, but I do think it is valuable that one of the representatives tell the council what's happened in the last
That would be
meeting.
great.
So we can come back to who those 3 members are, but as soon as the construction manager is selected, the design team can deliver the set of documents that can be used to create a cost estimate. An accurate cost estimate can be performed at this time, despite there's still design modifications. So he's saying that even though there may still be some design modifications, they can still get pretty close on costs. So once we have a construction manager on the team, we'll start understanding better what this jail is going to cost. Elevatus is to meet with the sheriff's department to continue the design modification process. And I had already mentioned before their meeting later this week. He believes that there's 2 to 3 meetings that are still going to be required to complete the design modification. And then Elevatis is to create a site plan to present to the county. They will establish many important aspects of the project, including the following: the building orientation and position on the site, understand what building facades will face key directions, establish the curb appeal as well as what neighbors will see. And they will establish 4 important vehicular paths, 1 being public, 2 being staff, 3 being detainee transport, and 4 being deliveries and trash pickup, that sort of thing. They will identify future growth plans, how the jail can expand in the future should need arise. And once a cost estimate has been completed, the project team will begin work on to reconcile any delta between estimate and owner budget. I can give everyone a copy of this. I'll give that to you to help you with the commissioner report. So we also have, and some of y'all have seen it, a financing timeline from Ice Miller. This is for the 3 that are on that jail committee. This is the Ice Miller team, the bond financing legal counsel from Indianapolis. And they have just a proposed timetable. I will say that in the past you were misinformed about when the bond sale might happen. The proposal from Ice Miller shows the bond sale in August 2nd. So that's significantly different than what you've been told. And I can make sure that you all have a copy of the proposed timetable as well. I will say too that the tax that the what's it called, the
Local option below it.
yeah, it's the low, but it has a longer name. It's the facility, correctional facility rehab. What did you say? Yeah. Currently, the balance on hand is $3,136,871.53. So as you all know, the intent would be, as this is building, this can pay for your soft costs as you go. So you're not incurring debt or you're bonding. You know, you've got the money on hand. You can be paying for Elevatis. You can pay for the work that BW construction did. You know, there's things that are just going to continue to come up that we can pay for along the way. This grew from 2.8 mil 15 days ago to 3.1 mil 15 days later. So it's working, it's growing, but invoices are going to start coming. We did receive an invoice from Elevatis, and I'll make sure you all get a copy of that too. But you know, we would ask that we would just be able to pay these invoices from this tax because that's what it's for.
What's the rate that is growing at, Chad? I mean, 300,000 in the last 15 days is probably not going to happen every 15 days.
No, but Tiffany might be better.
We get the lit once a month, so once a month we're going to see that. 156,032.17 goes into there.
Monthly.
Yes.
Is that tax, or how would you anticipate that tax, and this might be back to Chad, being tied in with the economy?
Well, it is an income tax, as you know. So if, you know, unemployment should happen to just really spike and we have a lot of people sitting home instead of working, then that will obviously directly impact the tax.
Thank you.
Other questions for Chad?
Yeah, I've and Kim has asked several times. I think we need to get a meeting set. I appreciate your report this morning, but I think we still have a lot of questions, and I think the financing part of this in a report would really be nice. And I think we ought to try to get that meeting, Tim, between council and commissioners and public. That's fine, but I think we ought to really get that, because one of the questions I would have, who's going to build the jail?
Well, that's the whole point in hiring the construction manager.
Right, but that's fine. Who's going to build the jail? How's it going to get built?
Well, those are things we don't know, Jim. So those are all things to be established.
Right, but those kind of things, we need to know how that's gonna be established. How does the construction manager do that? And stuff like that, plus the additional funding that it's gonna take to possibly do this. But I'd still would like to have that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to do that as well. We can see if maybe Cammie can try to get all of our schedules to work for an additional meeting. I just would ask, what is the purpose of the meeting? Like, I don't want to meet just to meet and not have the answers, because the questions that you have right now, we don't have the answers to. The next step in the process would be to find a construction manager, and the construction manager then would serve as like a general contractor who is going to bid out, sublease the work to contractors who are building the jail. So,
well, I think one of the things that the meeting will do, we'll tell the public that we are building a jail. I've ran into people that had no idea we're building a jail. And so if we have that public meeting, I think it definitely announce to them that I mean, everybody in here knows we're building a jail.
Yep.
And so forth. But I think, and then the timetables all in a report that we can, not in separate papers, but that we can kind of keep track of as we go and use. I mean, you've given us a lot of information today. I really appreciate it, but I still think there's a need for that meeting.
Yeah. So I have said in the past that, this is, you always hope your constituents are watching, right? But the jail tax was passed in 2019. There's been discussion about a jail since January of last year, or even before that. And prior to that, there was discussion about a community corrections facility. And, I think that if we're going out and delivering this message to our constituency and listening to them and hearing from them and that sort of thing, then that helps get the message out. I mean, it is always unfortunate when people are not informed. I totally agree with that.
May I suggest that we have Cammie try to do a calendar coordination throughout likely dates. Obviously, it will have to be advertised as a public meeting. So that puts it out a few weeks, at least a month. Hopefully it would fall in that time frame when we're getting the design such that we're ready to hire the construction manager fairly closely. And we can get just a clear picture, a literal picture of what's happening.
Right.
And invite Tony from Elevatus to that meeting as well. And if you have specific questions that you can articulate now, that we send those questions to Cammie for her to forward on to the commissioners before the meeting. Don't mean this moment, but like once we establish the date, begin in the next few days to send your questions. Does that seem reasonable?
I would hope we could do it before a month. I mean, all we have to do is make sure we advertise the meeting and so forth. I hope it's not a month anyway.
I kind of, I'm going to agree with Chad for a moment, though, other than having a meeting to announce we're building a jail. I think that can be done in a number of different ways. The timeliness of that meeting needs to be in line with the questions that we have to be answered at that time. If we schedule the meeting, we have questions that can't be answered for that meeting, then it's going to be a 10-minute meeting that everybody's planned for, and probably not much more than just announce we're building a jail.
And just in addition to that, I just want to be clear that in the Ice Miller proposal, there are several public meetings. So
Right.
there will be multiple public hearings
Right.
that will be posted, advertised, published and print ads. So the public meetings will be happening. You know, many opportunities to learn about what's happening in public meetings.
So do you, you want a meeting, excuse me, before they hire a construction manager?
Well, we haven't decided that, but I think the 3 people that are already appointed to that committee to keep consistency, my feeling is that they stay on that and pick the construction manager or recommend a construction manager. But there's been a lot of things that, you know, financing for one thing. There's been talk of an additional entrance that to the jail site that,
Yeah.
you know, and that, you know, the thing with your information today is I didn't know it was going to be that thorough, and so I'm not ready to.
Well, I was
look that
asked
over.
for a thorough update. I have more. I could keep going if you'd like, or I'll shut up.
I just didn't think this was the timing quite for that, but that's fine. But I'll come up with a list of questions that I'll submit to commissioners and that. But Kim, I know you was wanting a meeting. I don't know what your feelings are.
Well, I just want, Chad's right, you know, the council, maybe the 3 that's on there, we may not attended the meetings. And one of my concerns was I wasn't getting to know when that meeting was until I already scheduled to do things. So, but I think you're right, Chad. I think we got to have 3 that'll show up that has the flexibility to do that. So at this point, if there's somebody on the council that has that flexibility, they can take my spot. But I just don't have that flexibility to be on there. And there, I do have some questions that when we get notified or get a text, I'll come up with some questions to ask. Concerns that I have. I'm glad to see that we're going with a construction manager. That was good. But there's some other questions that.
Sure.
And I think what we ought to do is send it out to the council. And if you get enough questions that make sense, then have the meeting. If you don't, postpone it until you get enough questions to have the meeting. So,
Or address those obvious ones at the next
Right.
commissioner report at the council meeting.
And I'll agree with Jim. The ones that started on the committee need to stay there to get the construction manager, because if one of us got on there, we just have to play catch up for half an hour to know where you've been, what you've done, everything else. So I agree with Jim that the 3 council members on there now need to get the construction manager.
Just for clarification though, we're just asking for the 3 members to be a part of the selection process for a construction manager.
Yeah, right.
So it's not necessarily a design meeting or any of that. It's just, we're going to put out an RFP or an RFQ for a construction manager, and people are going to respond with their proposals. And then a board is going to meet and review all of the proposals.
Right.
And
But those 3 have already heard names thrown around that we haven't. So
Sure.
they got some idea who each company person is. So I agree with Jim. It needs to be the same.
May I suggest that if one of us is not available, we have an alternate?
I think it'd be Councilman Algebright. What do you?
I do too.
Are we in agreement there?
Yes.
Okay, so Commissioner, you
Permanent
have
secretary.
the 3 existing members and include Mr. Augerbright in all the emails, so he could be an alternate for us.
yep, that sounds good.
Make sure that-
Real quick, can I continue Commissioner's report? There's been some Baker Tilly invoices come in as it relates to the 5-year plan and American Rescue Plan. The ARP monies, Baker Tilly really helped us understand that money and also did the 5-year plan for the county. And we paid for that invoice out of the commissioner's budget. But it's appropriate to use our funds to pay for that. So we're not asking for anything today, but next month we are coming back to ask you to allocate our funds to pay for the work that Baker Tilly did. They've also done some work in the jail financing. So, you know, we'd be asking later on to pay for the work that they did with jail financing out of the jail tax. It only makes sense. We used our other line item from county general in the commissioner's budget. But the trouble is that we've intended to use that for the 3% increase on preferred IT, as well as their software increases. We bought the soundboard when it went down out of that line item for this room, for this meeting room. We purchased the Lao software with that line item. And so it's not that, you know, it is an other, but it's not by any stretch of the imagination a slush fund. It's to be able to purchase things as they come up. So next month we'll be coming and asking to clean this up to be able to pay for the Baker Tilly out of ARP and pay for Levadis's invoice and some of Baker Tilly out of the jail tax.
And those will be transfers, not additional.
Well, we didn't do any budgets for, so it will be an additional.
Okay.
In addition, there's bank financing costs for the ARP money. Just by having it, we had to pay a bank to be able to keep the money. So Kay Gatton is going to be a part of this request as well, because that's coming out of her budget when it can be coming out of the ARP budget. There's just other things. I just want you to be aware next month. And then that's all I have.
Okay. So do we want to go back to the plan to set a meeting? Was requested that be accomplished before the end of the month. I think probably the only way that could happen if it's the 28th, 29th, because it's going to take a week to get it settled and 2 weeks to get it advertised. And if 1 week after the date is settled, there are not appropriate questions, you'll let us know and we'll cancel. Is that agreeable? Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
You bet.
You have two sets of meeting minutes, one from the January 4th where there are some changes highlighted. First being there are two folks that did not make the register, so they were not listed as present in the meeting. And then on the page 2, a change in the just the verbiage on the highway foreman position discussion. We can approve these changes, or we can choose to determine that's not necessary.
I make a motion, we accept the changes.
I have a motion to accept the changes in the January 4, 2022 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Excuse me.
Have we refreshed my memory? We've approved the minutes. We're just approving amendments at
Yes.
this point? Thank you.
Any further questions or discussions? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. We'll show it's unanimous. And now we have the February 8 minutes, last month's meeting minutes. Have the opportunity to review those. Do I have a motion regarding the February 8 meeting minutes?
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand and let it show that it was unanimous
Mr. Chairman, I abstain.
and with an abstention. Thank you. Anyone from the audience or general public have anything to share?
I don't know. It's probably not correct. Because the timeline keeps changing. So it's probably something you can disregard, but I'll find out.
Anyone else? Yes. Personal property. Both of them were personal property. Thank you. If I may, Sean, I would call upon you. You have any comments about the design process of the jail?
The only comment is I feel like we're moving forward very well with this. There's things that we found with Fulton County. There's some things that we do like. So seeing it as a finished product made it a whole lot nicer to revise the space, the size, some of the constraints we may have in the new building. So with a few interior flips and things like that, I think it's going to work out well for our needs. So happy with the progress we're making so far. Like you said earlier, the 10th, there's a revision meeting, design revision meeting in the sheriff's office at 8 a.m. If anyone wants to come. Other than that,
I thought he said 10.
10th was today. That's Thursday.
Thank you, Sean. We appreciate
Hey,
your
just a
hard
second.
work.
Sean, what was the time and date again? Thank you.
Thank you for, in a lot of ways, taking the lead in this design process. You would be one to know the jail best. Sean recently celebrated his 25th anniversary. And there is no truth to the rumor that he has spent 25 years in jail.
Like 30. 40. One of our hardest decisions right now as we sit and look at those trends is we don't know what the county's budget will be, which is hard to start making too many changes when we talk to them because we don't know if it's million, 22, 24. So there's a couple buildings or add-ons we would like, but we're not sure if
In those committee meetings, we kind of hit on it a little bit, and I know that you traveled some, so you probably weren't there, but Baker Tilly, the work that they did was really to tell us how much we can afford, how much we can bond and comfortably be able to make our bond payments. So they're saying 24 million is what we can bond. And they err on the side of being conservative. So I appreciate that about them, and I feel comfortable with that 24 million, which, as you know, Fulton County was 23.1. We're in a better position than they are because we did our tax well in advance and purchased the property early, and those are all things they had to do after the fact. So in some ways, we're in a better position than they are. I think as long as we're limiting the changes that we make and keeping Elevatus at around that 3 to 4% on design, then we're in a good place. But Tony knows that, and I've had talks with Tony just to keep his pulse on it and let me know. Like he did say that one of your modification plans could change things structurally. And so then we would have to really consider whether or not we wanted to pay that difference to get a structural engineer involved or whatever. But he's not real concerned right now. We're keeping costs low on design.
Thank you. Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I have a couple things on it. The Cherubusco Rotary auction is on the 22nd. Any monies raised goes to scholarships for students for Cherubusco. And also we got notification that the AIC meeting is at Eagle Glen on the 30th. And we probably need, if you're going to attend, some RSVP.
Thank you. Commissioner Western? Commissioner Augubright?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Warner?
I have nothing.
Pardon?
Cherubusco Cafeteria.
I'm sorry. Councilperson, Councilman Hodges,
We start feeding at 5:30, the auction's at 6:30.
Councilman Wheeler.
High school cafeteria. You should.
And I have nothing additional.
Councilman Chairman,
Yes,
a couple questions on it. That is at the Cherubusco cafeteria on it. And the feed is at 5:30 and the auction's at about 6:30.
thank you. Anything else, council members? Nothing else. I call the meeting adjourned.
Are you a Rotary member?
I just go every year.
Oh, you did?